Hello everybody, this is That Shy Guy Matt, and today I'm going to be talking about the crappy ending of this Squid Game Season 3, the finale. Just finished watching it, and if you watched the episode, but I wanted to make a whole video just on how bad the ending was. So right after the episode, I looked online, and on Rotten Tomatoes, well, on IMDb it gets a really high score, I believe, if I seen right. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets like a 90-something for critics, and audience is at 50%. Most people seem to like the ending. They said it was bittersweet. Some even said it wasn't a happy ending. But this is where I disagree. This was a crappy, happy ending. It was predictable. It was a cop-out. And the reason for that is simple. When we were introduced to player 222, who was pregnant, I kind of wondered where the outcome with her would be. I kind of figured they would maybe just kill her off, which would be really traumatic because it was a pregnant woman. I didn't really expect that she was going to give birth. So when she did, I instantly realized I know how the show is going to end, which means happy ending. How do I know the baby was going to win? Simple. Babies are plot devices. Whenever a baby's in something, it usually means it becomes the focus. Nobody's really going to unalive a baby. So usually, that I could think of. So of course, that meant the baby was going to no doubtedly win this or somehow survive it all and be the only survivor. After she gave birth, when they got back to the room, there was a lot of dialogue about the baby from the main character. I cannot pronounce his name for the life of me. The old woman. The dialogue basically was along the lines of, protect the baby is the future, the baby is everything, baby, baby, baby. This was placing a whole new plot line, and it was basically telling us early on, this baby is going to be the key to the series and going to win it. I think their best bet would have just stuck to something like, she never had the baby and something just happened to her. This way we could have had more of an emotional ending or something else, something not predictable. But instead, we had a predictable ending. And when player 222 decided in the jump rope game just to jump off the ledge, that confirmed for me even more, the baby is going to survive the whole thing. And when you watch my reaction, you'll even hear me say, guaranteed the baby's going to survive, and that the main character is probably going to sacrifice himself for the baby. And I was right. My thing is, this series is about the dark side of humanity, right? Yes, there's a lot of emotional and character-driven stuff in this. Everything about this series is excellent, don't get me wrong. The show's pretty near perfect. However, the series still has a dark undertone of what people will do to other people to survive. Especially in a game like this where people are desperate. So having a baby in it just totally threw the darkness of it out the window, because you could feel they were going to push the baby winning. And what they should have done, and this is horrible to say, but it should have been a more human ending where somebody would have unalived the baby to win. Again, that is awful. In real life, I would never want to see that. I would never want to do that. I don't even want to hear about it. But this is a show. It's a fantasy world. And unfortunately, our culture is really... I mean, I know this is a South Korean-made show, but Disney rules the world. And so I always say things become Disney-fied. That is to say, everyone expects happy endings in everything. Even in their real life, like they expect their marriage to be happy, their children to bring total happiness, because we have this expectation from media, movies, TV shows, even some video games, that everything's happy and perfect and, you'll succeed in the end, but that's not realistic. That's not life. And I know this show, you could say, well, it's just fake anyways. Yes, but again, the darker element was there. The odds that the main character would survive to the end, who happens to have a very moral conscience about him, was even more doubling down on the fact that he was going to sacrifice himself for the baby. Odds are, if the Squid Game was real, someone terrible more than likely would win every season. I know a lot of it's luck-based and chance, depending on various factors. I can guarantee you somebody would have unalived that baby in reality. It's terrible. Again, I don't like saying that like I'm confident about it and I'm happy. It's awful. But humans are awful to each other. Look what we do. For all of history, we've been at war with ourselves. We can't even get along over the simplest things. I mean, I've seen people get into heated arguments over toppings on food or how to cook a steak properly. So, when you're talking about survival, you're going to do what you can. And that's why I said, as you will see in the episode, I was in that situation. I may have let the baby... It's awful. That would make me a absolutely terrible human being. I'm sure, no doubt. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I would be a good person for doing that. But if my life was on the line in a game where I knew I was going to die, I might have to do what I have to do. Of course, then again, it's also easier to say that, right? I mean, everyone says they would do something differently, but you don't know until you're in that situation. But yeah, getting back to it, I just think they really could have gone a different route with this instead of just this happy-go-lucky ending of course the baby survives. It also doesn't do any justice to the main character. Yes, he made some mistakes in his life. Yes, he wasn't a great parent, so to speak, because of his death. I get it, but there was no redemption arc. You could say sacrificing himself for the baby was redemption. True, it was, but for him just to end his life just felt like it all led up to nothing, I guess, so to speak, just because of the baby device was thrown in there and just basically made all the plots just disappear except for baby plot. Amongst a lot of other plots, I mean, there were other issues with this season in the episodes of, like, we never get to see who the main man, whatever the guy with the black mask is. I thought he was gonna die. And then at the very end, for some reason, there's Cate Blanchett with a LA Squid Games. So I'm not quite sure how that works. I mean, I feel that's just more for Netflix trying to promote their own version of Squid Game. And I did read an article even saying the director of Squid Game said he can't confirm, but he's basically saying, in my words, that they are passing the torch on to somebody else who wants to handle it. Guarantee we're going to get another Squid Game. Whether or not it's actually in America, who knows? But I am hoping the American version will be more brutal and more, even less humane, because humans are terrible. I do cut the show some slack because it is a South Korean show, and I know they're great with dramas, but I also know they don't cross certain lines to some degree, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But an American version of this could be interesting, and it could also be totally awful. I do expect it to probably not be as good, because it's going to start putting American culture stuff in it, which is going to annoy people one way or the other. And I had some other nitpicks about this series, of course, like the CGI baby, the CGI dog, and all that other stuff, but those are really minor. I kind of got used to the baby, even though it was uncanny and uncomfortable and felt weird. But yeah, I was not happy with this ending. I feel like I've wasted my time watching the whole series. Though I guess technically you could consider season 1 its own season because somebody won the game, right? But still, I felt like the baby just ended all the other plots that were happening, and we didn't really get any closure or anything nice. Even though some people say it's not a happy ending. I mean, it's a happy ending for the baby, right? Sure, it's a sad ending that the main character died, of course. Look at the other endings. The girl, the defector, she gets to find her daughter. She got to visit the guy she rescued, who got to be with his daughter. The main character's daughter in LA got to get possessions from him and money. So, there's a lot of happy endings in this. Despite what people saying that it wasn't a happy ending, it was. I'm actually surprised how many people didn't even see the baby ending coming. Like, right up until the last second, people really didn't think the main character was gonna just fall off the edge so the baby could win. I'm like, do not see that. And I'm talking like reactors who are popular and are like in with Hollywood stuff. Like, this is a pretty basic element from storytelling. Throw in a baby becomes the main thing in everything, and baby survives. Plot armor, right? I will say, I'm in no means saying this series is awful or that I wouldn't watch it again, but I just feel they could have gone a different route, and I feel like this was just them being careful because they wanted the audience to be happy with the ending instead of being all upset that somebody unalived the baby and somebody else won. Or, you know, maybe nobody wins and the whole place blows up. Who knows? It could have been any number of different endings. And I did read a brief article, supposedly that the main character, the actor, I think it was the actor or the director, somebody said originally the ending wasn't going to be like this. I think they said something along the lines of he wins the game, which I assume means the baby gets unalived, and that he goes home to find his kid, yada yada yada. So I would have been happy with that ending. The baby shouldn't have won at all. I get it. You know, don't get me wrong. I get the whole point of you could, I think I may have said this in my other video, but babies represent the future, a beginning, new things, changes. I get that. I get the message of the baby winning. You know, it's the end of all these terrible things with bad decisions in the beginning of this baby's life, which is new things. But technically, that's also kind of overwritten by the fact that there's still other Squid Games out there. So we didn't really topple the system. Apparently, we just toppled like one Squid Game out of who knows how many there are in the world. Yeah, I just wanted to make this video and talk about it. I wasn't sure about doing this because I feel like some people are going to get really mad about my opinion on it. I did go to some places like Reddit, which is usually pretty... I was actually surprised how many people on there were mad about the baby and how many people actually agree that it was a terrible ending. But those people also got a lot of pushback on there also. So this is my feelings on it. I may put this up before or after the finale. So you'll find out when you're watching this and you'll know. Again, I don't know why they went that route. As soon as that baby was born, I knew that the series was going to end terribly. Last thing I will say is you watch my videos, you probably kind of know me a little bit. You can never truly know somebody that's a reactor, but I'm not a pessimist or an optimist. I'm more of a realist. And I try to be logical as much as I can. I do, I use my emotions, of course, but I kind of prefer darker, grittier things sometimes because I'm in my 40s and you watch enough stuff and it's just always happy endings and it's just always joy stuff. And sometimes you just want reality because reality sucks. Not that I want to have sucky things happen, which they have in my life. Sometimes you can just get tired of happy endings and you just want something realistic, which is why I think I don't necessarily love the DC universe when it comes to Batman, Flash, and all that, but I do like the more darker approach of it. It's just not this cutesy little thing, which is kind of why I'm hesitant to see the new Superman movie, because they said it's more pure and more like 1950s and happy and this kind of cheery stuff, and I'm like, I give or take that at my age. Give me something entertaining. I think that's really all I have to say. I could bring up again, if you watch my other video, you could skip this section because I already mentioned it, but I really feel like it's funny how many people say the Squid Game could never happen in real life. Humans are weird and kind of crazy inside. We have morbid curiosity with death. That is the whole reason we watch Squid Game. We know it involves death and it's kind of, we're drawn in. We want to see, who's going to live? Who's going to die? How are they going to die? Who's going to betray who? You don't have to like that you're that way, but sadly, a lot of humans are like that. We are just kind of programmed to be, what's the quote? That there's a train wreck and you can't look away. That's humans. And people tend to forget we had something called the gladiator games. So we've had things like the Squid Games, so to speak. And it wasn't the only time in history we've had like arenas or private places where people fight each other to the death. Yeah, even when before MMA became a thing with the arenas on TV, it was violent and people died. So like I said, why people think this couldn't be a real thing is kind of crazy. I do realize the mechanics of how this would work wouldn't necessarily be realistic. The money, the mechanics, people would know about this. I get that part of it, but so that's just my general views on this. I like, comment, and subscribe if you like my content. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Did you like the ending? Did you hate the ending? Were you kind of just mixed on it? Were you able to predict the baby was going to win? And when were you? Because it seems a few people kind of predicted it around the same time I did when she gave birth, like, this is the moment. So I'd be curious to see who else thinks like that. So, yes, with that said, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.